MLS is back after a month-long break for the Leagues Cup tournament. Now, we do still have 2 Leagues Cup games to be played this weekend, but on Saturday, we have a full card of 12 games for MLS in week 29, and then followed by 2 Leagues Cup games, the third-place game and the final on Sunday. In this video, I'll look at all the top MLS week 29 predictions, picks, and parlays, plus get into those 2 games on Sunday. While you're watching, be sure to help with the channel, give the video a like, subscribe, share, and be sure to leave your picks down there in the comments as well. And if you want to check out the top sports betting promos in your area, check out my link in the comments, signupexpert.com/shredthespread, and you can find promotions of $500, $1,000, or even up to $1,500 at some sports books that are all offering great free bonus money for new customers. So let's get into these games here. Starting on Saturday, it's Inter Miami and FC Cincinnati. It's first against second, Miami hosting Cincinnati. There's clear revenge on the mind after Cincinnati absolutely blasted Miami 6-1 in Ohio as recently as July 6th, though Miami did have no Messi, Suarez, or Alba, and Busquets did get red carded. Messi's again out here still injured. Miami's trend has been scoring and conceding all year long. That continued in Leagues Cup. They had a 2-0 win, followed by a 2-1 loss, 4-3 win, and 3-2 loss to Columbus after being up 2-0 in the second half. Shutting out Puebla is Miami's only clean sheet in their last 14 games. So while I expect a better showing versus Cincy this time around, I certainly could not see a shutout. Only once in 13 games and twice in 27 games have Cincinnati not scored. In Leagues Cup, they won 1-0, 4-2, drew 1-1, won in PKs, and then lost 4-2. They did enter the tournament with 3-1, 1-0, and 3-1 losses, so their games have seen plenty of goals as well. Cincinnati also brings in 10-goal man Nicolas Gioacchini from St. Louis, who was on the St. Louis last year. Also, they have a new center back in Chidozie Awaziem. Miami added a center back of their own, David Martinez from River Plate. He debuted in the Leagues Cup, but also saw a red card, so missed some time. I pulled this stat from the MLS site looking into the research for this weekend, and the goals in MLS are up to 3.11. That's up from the 2.76 of last year, and the highest amount since 2018's 3.19. Let's hope that continues here between 2 teams that seem to be scoring and conceding in almost every game. We'll go both teams to score over 2.5, and I got that at -125 odds. Just one game by itself. Let's just enjoy that big game and not worry about anything else in a parlay. But we'll move into some more parlays here. With Charlotte and New York Red Bulls, in Leagues Cup, it was an early exit for both teams. Charlotte lost 1-0. They drew 0-0, won in PKs, and didn't advance. The 1-0 loss to Philly is their only loss in 5 games, though New York drew 0-0, lost in PKs, drew 1-1 again, and then lost in PKs again. They had been undefeated in 8 games prior to the Leagues Cup, though. Now, maybe we get 2 fresh teams here on Saturday, but maybe it's also 2 rusty teams that have been off for about 3 weeks. It's tough to tell. In MLS, New York is 4th. In the East, Charlotte's 6th. They're only separated by 4 points. At 16-9, the Red Bulls have been more of an over team this season. Their games average 2.9 goals per match, but Charlotte is 15-10 to the under. That's the highest under rate of any team. The 2.3 goals per match in their games is the lowest in MLS, and they have the 2nd best defense. Now, New York's only lost 4 times, but they have piled up the draws with 11, and that's the most in the league, tied with St. Louis. Both added some pieces in the transfer window here over the summer. For Charlotte, U.S. international Tim Ream on defense, DP attacking midfielder, winger Pep Biel from Olympiacos. New York added a DP, number 6 midfielder in Felipe Carvalho, and a Uruguay international from Brazilian side Grêmio. To me, this looks like an under, but then New York won 3-1 earlier this season, and last year the scores were 1-1, 2-2, and 5-2. So based on some of those high-scoring results, you can actually get some decent price on unders here. Under 2.5, I would certainly consider by itself, but in this parlay, even safer, under 3.5 for me. New York City FC and Chicago Fire, it's 5th in the East, hosting 14th Chicago here. These teams drew 0-0 on July 13th, and the under has been the trend for a while here with these teams. The under 2.5 has gone a perfect 8-0 in their recent meetings. Chicago were in and out of Leagues Cup, losing 2-1 and 3-1, and they've been off since August 1st. They have 1 win in 6 and just 4 wins in 20 across all competitions. New York made it a little bit further in the tournament, reaching the quarterfinals, drawing Columbus 1-1, losing in PKs. Despite that, they still only had 1 win in regulation during the tournament, and the other 2 came in PKs. That means they have just 1 win in regulation in 9 games, with 6 ending drawn after 90. They've still scored in 7 of those 9, and Santi Rodriguez has goals in 3 of his past 4. I think it's hard to trust either here. New York certainly would get the edge for me playing at home, but they're just drawing a ton of games right now. I do expect them to at least score 1 goal. So in the parlay, New York to score. Houston and Toronto, TFC drew 0-0 and won in PKs. They won 2-1 before losing in Miami 4-3 in the League's Cup. They've been slightly improved, but it's still only 3 regulation wins in 16 and only 3 clean sheets in their last 14. Also, both Insigne and Bernardeschi are questionable with injuries. Toronto could possibly be looking ahead to Tuesday's Canadian Championship semifinal as well, which they need to win after losing leg 1 against Forge FC. They'll travel to Houston, where the Dynamo are 6-4-3 in 13, but one of those defeats came in PKs, and that was in their last game in the League's Cup in the round of 32. But still, it's only 2 regulation losses in 13 games across all matches for Houston. Only once in 15 games that playing in the tournament against Atlas have they failed to at least score once. Houston's also added some new attackers in Ezequiel Ponce and Lawrence Anali. If I'm picking a winner, it has to be Houston here. They're the team in better form and playing at home. Both, though, have been off for a while. Maybe there's some rust. I do think Houston should win, but super safe. Houston to score, looking like a relatively simple parlay here. Under 3.5 between Charlotte and New York. New York to score, the other New York, and Houston to score coming in at -128. Let's do another parlay. Just 2 games here. Sporting Kansas City, Orlando City. SKC beat Chicago 2-1, lost to Toluca 2-1, and then got routed 4-0 by Columbus in the League's Cup, so it's just 1 win in 5 for Peter Vermes' side. They added a new center back in Joaquim Fernandez, since they do need all the help they can get defensively. Willie Agata hasn't scored in 2 games, but he has 6 goals in 8, and always seems to get on the score sheet when starting at Children's Mercy Park. SKC have scored in 25 of 28, but conceded in 26 of 28. Both teams to score bets for SKC this season have gone 26-5 across all competitions. The both teams to score in over 2.5 has gone 12-5, and both teams to score alone is 14-3 in their recent games. Orlando also only lasted 3 games in the tournament with a 4-1 win over Montreal, 1-1 draw and a PK win over San Luis, and then a 0-0 draw and PK loss to Cruz Azul. That makes Orlando still undefeated in regulation in 8 games with only 1 true loss in 11. Drawing Cruz Azul 0-0 is the only time they've not scored in 12 games, and the only time their games have not seen at least 2 or more total goals in the last 12. Ramiro Enrique is heating up with 6 goals in 7 games as well. I think this looks like a good both teams to score bet here, and we'll pair it with Real Salt Lake and San Jose. RSL were in and out of League's Cup with a 2-1 win and a 3-0 loss. They've been slumping at 1-1-3, but they were without Chicho Arango for 4 games during that time with suspension. This team is still 5th in the Supporter Shield race, and they're 8-1-2 at home in MLS. RSL suffered a blow over the break. They transferred Andres Gomez, their second leading scorer with 13 goals, sold to Stade Rennais in France. But they do add a number 10 in Diego Goncalves from Copenhagen and winger Dominik Maranjuk from Jangola Białystok in Poland. His visa may or may not be ready, though, in time for this weekend. San Jose lasted longer in League's Cup. They reached the round of 16, drawing 1-1 with a PK win, losing 2-1, winning 5-0, and then losing 4-1 to LAFC. They don't win often, just 7 wins across all competitions in 31 games, and one of those was in PKs. They do often score, doing so in 23 of 31, but they're basically a lock to give up goals. Being scored on in 28 of 31 games, only 4 times in 31 games have their games not seen at least 2 or more goals. 21 of 31 have seen 3 or more. There's a lot of both teams to score bets that have hit between these teams over the years, with 6 of the last 7 doing so. Both teams to score in over 2.5 hitting, including both last season. 3-1 for RSL at home and 2-1 for San Jose at home. To me, this could be a both teams to score. Maybe San Jose can come out strong here in the restart, or an RSL win. Let's go RSL win. Pair it with SKC Orlando, both to score at +120. Now we're going to move into the late games here. 2 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time games for parlay number 4 in Saturday night here. LA Galaxy and Atlanta United. LA are first in the West. Atlanta are 9th in the East since 2019. These teams have only played twice and not since 2022, so there's not much relevant head-to-head stats here. The last game was in LA, and it was 2-0 for LA though. These teams, though, they're much different 2 years later, but the current versions of these teams still see LA being the better team. LA has only 4 losses in 19 games. 1 came in their last game, though, getting knocked out of the League's Cup 3-1 to Seattle. Other tournament games saw LA win 2-1, draw 2-2, going on to win in PKs. And LA has now scored 2 or more goals in 4 of 5, but the both teams to score in over 2.5 is 5-0 and 7-1, as they do usually concede. Defense is still an issue, as they've given up a goal in 8 straight. Atlanta's time in League's Cup was short-lived. They drew 3-3, lost in PKs, drew 0-0 again, and lost in PKs. Technically, they have not lost in regulation 4 overall games, but it's still just 1 win across their last 8. They do bring in a new number 10, and Alexei Miranchuk from Atalanta, who just won the Europa League last year. But then LA made a splash of their own, signing ex-Dortmund star Marco Reus. He scored 156 goals in his career. He can replace some of that missing offense right now from the injured Dejan Joveljic. To me, this looks like an LA win, or LA to score at least 2. Let's go LA Galaxy over 1.5 goals and pair it with Portland Timbers and St. Louis City. St. Louis has been dreadful all season long, but if you didn't watch the Leagues Cup, they did bring in some new faces, and they did make a bit of a run in the tournament. Marcel Hartel, Cedric Tuchert, Simon Betcher all came in over the break, and they all scored during the tournament. In total, 9 players have come in, 6 have gone out during the recent transfer window. St. Louis beat Dallas 2-1, drew Juarez 1-1, lost in PKs, beat Portland 3-1, and then lost to Club America 4-2. But we're leading in that game for a long time, so it's only 1 regulation loss in their last 5 now for St. Louis. When these teams just recently met in Leagues Cup, in St. Louis, it was Tuchert, Hartel, and Betcher who all scored. St. Louis had the edge in shots, 18-11, while both had 5 shots on target, and Claudio Bravo was the only Timber to find the score sheet in that game. Other score lines between them were 0-0 in June, and 2-1 road wins for each team last year. St. Louis halted Portland's tournament after 2-1 and 4-0 wins. Portland are 9-2-3 in all competitions of late. They're always capable of scoring. They had scored multiple goals in 9 straight prior to that St. Louis loss. Now, they could be missing the injured Evander here, which would be a big loss, but they do still have plenty of other offensive weapons. Their games always see goals with goal totals of 4, 4, 3, 5, 3, 5, 5, 5, 2, and 3 in their past 10 games. At 20-5 to over 2.5 totals, they're tied for the highest over rate with Miami in MLS right now, and the 3.7 goals per match in their games is tied for the second highest. For this, it has to be both teams to score. Maybe add the extra over 2.5 as well. In the parlay, both teams to score for Portland St. Louis, paired with LA Galaxy over 1.5, will come in at plus 118 odds. Now that will conclude the MLS portion of this video, but let's look at the Leagues Cup games too, going down on Sunday, starting with the 3rd place game between Philadelphia and Colorado. In the Leagues Cup, Philly won 1-0 over Charlotte, drew 1-1, PK lost to Cruz Azul, beat Montreal 2-0, beat Cincinnati 4-2, drew 1-1, PK win over Mazatlan. In the semifinals, Diego Rossi scored early, just 12 minutes in before Philly equaled through Daniel Gagstad in the 32nd. Rossi added a second in the 43rd, Cucho a third for the Crew in the 53rd, and it ended 3-1 Columbus win. The Union were missing Ty Baribo, who has 5 tournament goals. He was suspended for the last game, but will be back here. The Union have just 1 loss now in regulation across their last 8. They've also scored in 11 of 12. Over to the Rapids, who lost to Portland 4-0, drew Lyon 1-1, a PK win, beat Juarez 3-2, beat Toluca 2-1, drew Club America 0-0, getting a PK win, and then went to the semis in LA versus LAFC, but they were run off the pitch 4-0. LAFC piled up the shot attempts 24-8, 10-3 in shots on target. They scored in the 42nd, 45th, 59th, and 75th minutes. Rapids games usually see goals. The 0-0 against Club America was an outlier. They had given up a goal in 11 straight prior, and after the LAFC game, it's a goal conceded in 16 of 19. In MLS, 25 of 27 Colorado games have seen 2 or more goals. So too did 5 of their 6 Leagues Cup games. 4 of 6 of the tournament games also saw 3 or more. While Colorado has now been shut out in back-to-back games, they have scored in 8 of 11 and 23 of 27. Last year, Philly won 2-1 in Colorado, and in 2022, the Union won 6-0 at home. The Union made it to this far in the tournament last season, and they beat Monterrey 3-0 to earn that Champions Cup spot. This time, I do think it could be tight. I would still give Philly the edge at home. To me, they look like just the little bit better team right now in good form. This could still end as a draw, though. If I had to pick, I'm picking Philly to win. I'm not going to make an official bet on this game. Certainly, you could also maybe just throw Philly to score into a parlay. Let's go to the final here, and it's the Columbus Crew and LAFC. The Leagues Cup final is a rematch of the MLS Cup final, which saw Columbus win 2-1 at home last year, which is where they'll be here too. This season, they met in a rematch in LA this season, and it was all Columbus in a 5-1 rout. Ramirez had a brace. Each of Cucho, Rossi, and Matan added one, and LAFC's only goal came late in the 85th minute. Switch over to the current tournament, and the Crew entered in the round of 32. They beat SKC 4-0, Inter Miami 3-2, drew New York City FC 1-1, winning in PKs, and then won again last game at home over Philly 3-1 with 2 goals from Rossi and 1 from Cucho. Diego Rossi has 11 goals, 5 assists in his last 11 games. Columbus is now 9-1-1 in their last 11, outscoring opponents 33-9 in that time. The Crew were 6th in the Supporter Shield race, own the top defense in all of MLS. They only have 1 home loss and have only given up 7 goals when playing at home at Lower.com Field in MLS. LAFC needed to go through the group stage, and so far, they beat Tijuana 3-0, drew Vancouver 2-2, losing in PKs, beat Austin 2-0, San Jose 4-1, Seattle 3-0, and then routed Colorado 4-0 last game. LAFC opened the scoring in the 42nd minute from Bogusz. It kept going with goals from Kamara, Bouanga, and even new signing Lewis O'Brien got on the score sheet as well. They piled up 24 shot attempts, 10 on target. Bouanga is tied for first in Leagues Cup scoring with 6 goals alongside Rossi of Columbus, and is tied in second for assists with 3 as well. Christian Oliveira is tied in 4th in scoring with 4 goals himself, and all of that is not even considering Olivier Giroud, who's still slowly working his way into the LAFC lineup. LAFC is 2-2 in 22 overall matches, and they have scored multiple goals in 17 of 22, but defensively, they've been equally impressive, keeping clean sheets in back-to-back games in 3 of 4 and 4 of 6 in this tournament as well. Both teams have been in just as good form right now, both from an offensive and defensive perspective. I think the instinct is to bet on goals. Finals can often be tight. Both are good defensively as well. The Crew at home have an edge there, but LAFC will have that revenge on their minds. Big new signing in Olivier Giroud. The Crew have given up goals to Miami, New York, Philly. Certainly LA can score on them as well. Both teams just have too many stars on the field for me to not see some scoring here. So we'll go both teams to score over 2.5, minus 125 odds for the Leagues Cup final prediction there. Now, what are you betting in the Leagues Cup, the 3rd place game, the championship game, or MLS on Saturday? Be sure to share all of your picks down there in the comments. Be sure to check out another video you can find at the end of this video for all of the best bets in Europe's leagues as well. Be sure to share your picks down there and give the video a like on your way out. Thanks a lot.